All right. How's everyone? Thank you so much for being here. We're here to talk about the importance of the major scale. Every now and then, I feel that it is important to just go back to the basics. Now, for myself, I actually I learned music initially by ear. So I knew nothing about the major scale. I literally, sat down and listened to music, and I wondered to myself, could I actually figure it out? Okay. Sitting at a piano. But as I got more curious about how to write music and actually, just being able to do more with my understanding, being able to find ways to just relate to music differently than just hearing it. I wanted to know more. Basically, I wanted to know the history. Not too much history, but I wanted to know how is music written? How is it written down? What's the theory of music? So as I began to go down that journey, I discovered, and didn't discover, but I realized that this major scale is pretty important. What I also noticed is that everyone knows the major scale. They may not have words for it, and they may not have any like terminology or anything like that, but everyone knows the major scale. Everyone knows what it is. Everyone knows how it sounds. Now, they may not realize that what they're doing is a major scale based off of what it is termed in Western music, but that's pretty much what it is. That's pretty much what it is, according to Western music. Obviously, music in other areas of the world, they have different theories, different things going on. Anyhow, the major scale is very important, okay? It is foundational. And let's get into the reasons why the major scale is very important. And then we're going to talk about how to break it down. And we're going to start in the key of C, because that's just a foundational area, even on the guitar, to actually explain the major scale. I have videos where I show how to play songs. And a lot of times people just want to know how to play the song. But if they wanted to do more, if they wanted to go further and break the song down more, they wouldn't know how to do it. One of the reasons that I can explain where a note is, or one of the reasons that I can explain what key the song is in, is because I know the major scale. I know that. Okay. And every key group belongs to a major scale initially. Now, after that, you can get into a bunch of other things that build on top of your knowledge of the major scale. But anyway, I said I was going to get into it. So let me go ahead and cut this music. Yeah, this music is by me, by the way. So with this, let's just get into I'll say 4. I think I'll choose about 4. I have a list of things that I wrote out, but let's go with this first one. Okay. All right. Foundation of harmony and melody. Okay. Has anyone ever heard of the scale that singers hum out when they're actually like warming up, the do re mi thing, the da 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 da, the do re mi fa sol la ti do, that that's the major scale. Okay. And that is a scale is also called melody. Okay, it's another word for melody. All right. So let me just read it out. The major scale provides the basis for much of the harmony and melody of Western music. Chords and melodies are often built from the notes of the major scale. making it a central element in composition and improvisation. You know, improvisation, all those things. It is very much true. It's like a mental reference. You may not even be playing an actual major scale, but you're referencing it in your playing, and it's like a roadmap that you basically snap back to when you're playing within a particular key. And when I say a key, I mean a set of notes, a set of 7 notes that a key belongs to. Okay. All right, let's go to the next one, because I don't have much else to say about it. Tonality. All right. Major scale defines the key of a piece of music. For example, if a piece is in C major, the key of C major. Now, the key of C major has the notes C, D, E, F, G, A, B within. Those are the notes that belong to the key of C. And every key has a different set of notes. Okay. Now, the intervals are the same. The intervals are the same, but the notes are different in other keys. And we can talk about what that is in future videos, but the key of C is very foundational as a reference point, okay? But these notes are the primary tones used. The relationships between these notes create a sense of home or tonality in music. Remember I mentioned a roadmap? Pretty much the same thing. So it's like a roadmap. It's like home. You know, you got to know how to take a journey, and then after you take a journey, you know how to come back home, basically. Okay. Intervals and structure. I know that I mentioned intervals just a little bit earlier in this video, and if you can memorize these intervals, it makes it very simple. Okay. Some things in music are intuitive, and some things you just got to memorize. Okay. If you can just memorize the difference between a whole step and a half step, especially on guitar, don't overthink that. Okay. Whole step, half step. 2 frets, that equals a whole step. 1 fret, apart, that's actually a half step. Okay. So this pattern is foundational for understanding intervals, which are building blocks of scales, chords, and melodies. I didn't even explain what the intervals were, but the major scale is made up of specific pattern of whole and half steps. And it starts out this way: whole step, half step, whole step, half step. If you can just memorize that, that's the first step, basically. That's the first step, basically. Let's go to the next one. Learning and teaching. Obviously, I'm teaching you all right now. Anytime a teacher is imparting into a student, you got to have a basis. You have to have a springboard. You have to have a home base that you can actually teach and communicate whatever reference point that you're coming from. It's always good to have things that people can actually identify and relate to. So that's pretty much what that is. But the major scale is often the first scale that musicians learn when studying music. It serves as a gateway to understanding more complex scales, modes, and musical concepts. Now, I had this in writing because, I don't want to just ramble to you. This foundational concept, it basically helps for the information to stick. Okay. And when it sticks, it makes it a little more fun, in my opinion. Now, let's get to the next part. Okay. This is when it gets a little more interesting, and I feel as though it'll stick a little bit more, like once you see it. Okay. All right. So right here, what we have is, I did a little drawing. Imagine this being one string of a guitar, okay, where you would place your finger. And imagine it being Yeah, just literally one string. And let me go back so I can actually show you how this would look on my guitar. When I say one string, I mean right here, like one string. This is literally the second, or actually the fifth string. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. And it's going from here on down up to the 12th fret. And it's starting at the 3rd fret, but it's mainly an illustration to just show you the spacing. Okay. So from here to here, that's a half step. From here to here is a half step. Okay. Half step. From here to here, or from here to here is a whole step. Okay. Here to here, half step. Here to here, whole step. Half step, whole step. That's pretty much, you know, that's going to be important as far as explaining what this is. All right, so let's go back. So yes, here's the root, whole step, whole step. There's the half step. Okay, whole step, and back to the half step. Okay, so it's important that you actually see it. All right. Now let's go and uncover this next piece. All right. So, and then we'll get a little deeper into what actually like what we're actually looking at. All right. Okay. Now, this illustration, we're looking at the one on the left, and maybe I should cover this right here in the meantime, just so I don't confuse you. Okay, this is Illustrator for any of you who are wondering what we're looking at. But for this illustration on the left, this is pretty much a fretboard from the 1st to the 5th fret. Okay, and here's the E string, the A string, D string, G string, B string, E. All right, 3rd fret. This is where the C is. All right, this is exactly where the C is. And it's pretty much showing you the intervals. So imagine that I took this same, well, look at it like this. Look at it like this. Look at it like hopscotch. Okay, root, skip a square. Then you're on the 2. Okay, from the 2, skip a square. Now you're on the 3. From the 3, you go to the next square. Okay, it's like hopscotch. So I literally took from here, well, from this 3 to the 5, and I stacked it on top of, you know, the 4 on top of that R or whatever. And it's the same exact notes on the guitar. And I did the same thing with the 6 on this top illustration. And I literally placed it on top. Okay, so it all looks the same. Now, for some of you who are a little confused about what I'm saying, just bear with me a little bit. It's gonna actually come full circle. But just know that you can play a scale on a guitar on one string, or you can play it on multiple strings. Okay, that's pretty much what I'm showing you. I'm showing you that, you know, you can go back, and I can actually show you this. Maybe this is a better view. But when I grab my guitar, so here is what I showed you initially. Here's the root. Whole step, half step, whole step, whole step, whole step, half step. Now, for some of you who are wondering why it might look upside down, keep in mind that I'm looking down at the fretboard, okay, which is equivalent to looking at it like this, okay, on the illustrations. On the illustrations, they look like that, okay, but it's only because a guitar player is looking at it that way. So when I'm showing it to you, it may look upside down. So I did want to explain that. And this is based off the major. Again, when I have it upside down, it's going to look like that. All right. So just keep that in mind. You know, anything that you do for the first time is gonna seem a little interesting. It's gonna seem a little strange, but that's okay. Don't be intimidated by it being different and strange. Okay. Don't be intimidated by the fact that your body is adapting to learning an instrument. It's almost like learning how to use your voice or learning how to walk. And we're now, most of us are walking. Okay. And there are some people who have missing limbs who still learn how to play guitar. So keep that in mind too. I realized that I didn't switch that screen. So let me just say it again. So this third one, this third scale is the same. This is also a C major scale. Okay. But it's played in a different position. Okay. So I'm showing you 3 different ways to play the same thing. Okay. So don't be confused by if you see a person playing guitar and you actually see them play the first thing. Let's just say for example, you see them play and you also see them play, or you see them play. Okay, so that was what I wanted to show you. Now we're going to go to the next part, and this may be a little clearer, and hopefully you'll be able to see the tabs as well. So let me switch this out so that you can actually see the tabs, and maybe that'll be a little easier to see. Okay, so hopefully this is visible. I don't know, I'm shifting around a little bit. So yes, you can see the tabs. They're right in front of you. Okay, so you can take your snapshot or whatever, you know, as far as like how this looks. And this is the first. The first scale is actually the 1 string scale, and then I go to the scale that is actually on the multiple strings, on strings A, D, and G. All right, so let's start out by just playing the chord, just so that you can see the chord and you see how it's actually played. Okay, so this is the position of the chord. All right. So for those of you who are actually new to the C major chord, here's the E string, B string, G string, D, A, E. On the A string, 3rd fret, this is where you're placing your ring finger. I didn't shoot a bird at you. Okay. On the D string, 2nd fret, all right, this is going to be your middle finger. All right. Oh, is that correct? Yeah. On the G string, that's actually open. The C string is the 1st fret. E string is open. Okay. Very simple. In the C string, you got your index finger on it. Now, the way it looks is like this, which I kind of already showed you, but all right. And for those of you who might be a little confused, it looks like that. It looks like that on the fretboard as far as what you're looking at, because the fretboard, keep in mind, this illustrated fretboard, we're actually looking down. We're looking down at it like that. Okay, so when I'm showing you, you're kind of looking at it differently. So that's the chord. Now let's move on to the scale. Okay. So this last scale, let's actually recap this. Okay, here is the scale on the 3rd, 4th, and 5th string. Okay, and now we're actually going to go to the scale still on the 3rd through 5th string, but just in different positions. Okay, I think that was a better view. I think I didn't switch that last time. So anyhow, yeah, so hopefully this was helpful, and just know too that by you knowing these intervals, by you actually seeing them, being able to visualize the intervals, these shapes repeat all over the guitar. Okay. Now there are a few barriers because when you get to the open positions, it looks a little bit different. Now open positions make it very easy to play chords. But once you start getting past the open positions, you may want to start playing bar chords. You might want to start playing different types of chords that you don't necessarily play in the open position. So in that situation, you want to notice and recognize the intervals, okay? The whole steps and half steps, okay? The thirds, the fourths, like you want to be able to see what these intervals look like on guitar. And that's what actually helps you to unlock the fretboard, okay? But the beginning of that is knowing what the major scale is, okay? So let me give you an example. And this will be probably the last example. The last example for today. And so here is your major chord. But that same chord has several positions. Now, if you bring your index finger over here, of course, that's not a major chord, but you want to bar it in the third fret. Well, take your pinky and just flatten the second through fourth string. Don't do that first one, the first one at the top. Just flatten it 2, 3, 4. And this is in the 5th fret. So these both are major chords. All right. Now playing the major scale in sort of this position, you can do it the first way I showed you. In this position, same notes, different position, okay? I won't show this time, but you can play the same thing. Or same position, actually playing this from the A string from this 3rd fret. If you come over here to the 8th fret and play the same position that you do from this A string from the 3rd fret, it's the same exact way, and you can do the same thing. Okay, so again, it helps you to unlock the fretboard almost immediately if you can just get that like inside your head. Like, don't overthink it. Memorize the intervals, find where it is, and guess what? If you go to, I don't want to confuse you, but if you were to just slide 1 fret and play a C sharp, so this was the C, and remember that scale? If you just slide down 1 fret, play the same thing. That's a C sharp, D flat, okay? If you grab your capo, okay, and you want to, put that on, and you can play the same intervals, the same C shape, same thing applies. If you're playing a C shape, but really you're playing a C sharp, but you're playing a C shape with the capo in the 1st fret. You have to distinguish that. All right. If you bring this capo 3rd fret, but you still play the same chords, but you got to know the intervals. All right. Now, another little thing that I'll get into later. Let's go back to C. Let's bring it back. Once you know your major scale, now you can study modes. You can go to the minor scale because it's wrapped into the major scale. Okay? And this is where singers and songwriters, they get their melodies. You know, they're able to go to a chord and instead of being random about the melodies that they're choosing, they're very deliberate about the melodies that they're choosing, because if this is an E, sorry. So when they're strumming, they're going to choose one of these notes. But they're going to put these notes in different places, okay? So those notes are within that E major scale, okay? Let's go back to this C. And when you're learning a song, you don't have to fumble around with where the notes are. You know, you might fumble at first, but if you know what this major scale is, you can find it a little bit easier. And I'm not even saying that you have to know the note names necessarily, but if you know the intervals, it helps it to be easier to even learn a song. All right. And when I'm teaching, or when another guitar teacher is teaching, you can understand the terminology in the vernacular. You can understand what the guitar teacher is saying to you, instead of like looking so hard and everything. It's just learn the intervals. When you learn intervals, it's very cool. Now, going back to the C. We're going to go back to the C. We're back to the C. Remember that scale. Well, if I play the same scale, if I play the same thing, but I start at a different note, it's just important that I end on the same note. I'm pretty much playing in a different mode, okay? Either in a different mode, I might be playing a minor, scale. It depends. I'll explain minor scales later, but the minor scale it's inside of the major scale. It's just starting and ending in the same place within the scale, okay? But the major scale, it starts at the root or the 1, and it ends on the 1, okay? And of course, you can play different sets of notes within that, okay? But here is the major scale. Well, what if I started at the 2? Okay, well, that's a Dorian mode. Well, that is a Dorian mode, not a Dorian mode. The name of the mode is called Dorian, all right? But it's also over a minor chord, okay? And with this major, but that's just because I started on the 2 and ended on the 2. So it's the same scale. I just, instead of starting at the 1, I played the same intervals. Now just start. Just make sure I start that next octave up. I stop on the next octave up, basically. So after you do that, you take it a step further. Now you're going to go from the 3, and that is, then you go to the 4. So on and so forth. And I will continue it later because I don't want to make this video too long. But it's foundational. It's a foundational, fundamental thing to know your major scale. If you know your major scale, you know your major chord. If you know your minor scale, you know your minor chord. If you know this mode, you know. But it starts at the major scale, okay? And today we used the C major, and that was pretty much what I wanted to use that to show just the foundational stuff. So if you all have any questions, please, first of all, there are like millions of videos online about what I just spoke about. But if you find my teaching style pretty cool and you rock with it, I appreciate it. Subscribe, hit the like button, all the stuff. And please subscribe, actually. Oh, you know what? And I noticed that like 85% of people who watch my videos don't subscribe. Y'all tripping. Hit the button. It don't cost you nothing. Hit the button. So I think that's everything. If you have questions, leave it in the comments. And I don't think I have another way. But leave it in the comments. And I will see you all on the next video. I appreciate you watching. I love you. Stay creative.